All right, good evening and welcome to the Hartland Township Planning Commission meeting of April 30th. We'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Keith, would you call roll, please?
Sure. Larry Fox.
Here.
Jeff Newsom.
Here.
I'm here. Sue Grissom.
Here.
Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Tom Murphy. And Joe Kalani.
Here.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, item 4, approval of our meeting agenda.
So moved. Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, approval of the meeting minutes from April 16th.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 16, 2015.
Support that.
Motion from Commissioner Grissom, second by Commissioner Voigt. Are there any changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next up, item 6, call to the public. Is there anybody that wishes to address the commission this evening?
I know there to be at least one, Mr. Chair, and it's our Fire Marshal, Mike Bernardin. I just want to give you a little bit of a quick intro here. So Mike called me earlier this week to ask if he could have an opportunity to speak to the Planning Commission. It was after we'd already published our agenda for this evening, so I suggested that he be a part of the call to the public. I know that typically with our call to the public, it's not necessarily meant to be a back-and-forth discussion with whoever's standing at the podium, and I think we would want to, honor that system even when it's our fire marshal. But I would say that if we do want to have a continuing discussion on what he wants to bring kick off a discussion with you tonight, we could certainly have a continuing discussion on this as an actual agenda item at our upcoming Planning Commission meeting.
Sound fair? All right.
Thank you, Director Campbell. Yeah, really, tonight, I'm just basically throwing this out there, and I have written it down, so I apologize for reading it to you. It's just so that I don't go off in this tangent, because this is something I'm very passionate about, so I appreciate just a few moments here. Residential sprinklers have been a requirement in the United States since 2008 for those states that have modeled their building requirements under the ICC, which is the International Code Council. When the 2009 Residential Building Construction Code vote was taken, every member of the committee, other than the 4 who were appointed by the National Association of Home Builders, voted in favor of keeping the home fire sprinkler requirement. The Residential Building Construction Code was then ratified by more than 1,000 of us ICC members in attendance at the hearing. When the ICC final action hearing was held in Dallas, Texas, which was to finish the 2012 edition, there were no public comments opposing the IRC, the International Residential Code, for the sprinkler requirement. As a result, the requirement was included in the 2012 as well as the 2015 edition, which is where we're at. So what happened, you might be asking, here in the state of Michigan? Well, why doesn't the Michigan Building Code follow the ICC minimum standards? Well, I can tell you, it's money. The Michigan Home Builders Association, as well as the National Association of Home Builders, both had basically blank checks and basically had a louder voice, okay, than we, the experts in the fire service. And basically, we were just trying to keep the lights on and the water running back in 2007 to 2012, let alone trying to make sure that our voice was heard. We just didn't have the money. But Michigan adopted every single word, letter, and period of ICC's Residential Building Code, except for the residential sprinkler requirement. They flooded the lawmakers and the state committee members with incorrect data, numbers, and basically lies to keep residential sprinklers out of the building requirements. I was one of the many, if not hundreds, of Michigan Fire Service personnel that spoke with any lawmaker or committee member, basically anybody that would take my phone call or see me in person. I was there and I testified on the floor in the Lansing of the day of the vote, and I saw firsthand how influential the almighty dollar is. It was basically they had brought the CEO for Habitat for Humanity in to testify in Lansing, who went on record to announce that no more Habitat homes would be built in the state of Michigan should this pass, because it would add $50,000 to the building cost of each home. And that's what they testified on. And I basically believe that that's wrong, and I go on. But basically, currently there's 3 states that require residential fire sprinklers in newly constructed homes. They're California, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. However, that is quickly changing. The requirement to provide fire sprinklers in townhouses has been adopted in 10 states: California, D.C., Maine, Maryland, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. And single residential home requirements are quickly moving to the front burner once again. Other states and local jurisdictions are considering the adoption of the IRC residential fire sprinkler requirements when they update the codes. So basically, what's happening is ISO, which is the Insurance Service Organization, that's what regulates our coverage and subsequently basically tells us what we're going to pay in insurance premiums. Well, they're now including a community risk reduction section that recognizes community efforts to reduce losses through fire prevention, public safety, fire education, and fire investigation. The addition of the new risk section represents a major shift in emphasis for the fire sprinklers, giving incentives to communities that strive to reduce fire severity proactively through a structured program of fire prevention activities. Examples of fire prevention programs will include wildland urban interface ordinances, occupancy inspections, and other fire protection equipment. But basically what they're doing is they're starting to recognize how important and valuable residential fire sprinklers are. So basically, I'm just going to throw a few numbers out to you. What are the costs? What's this going to cost the township? What's it going to cost the developer? What's it going to cost a homeowner? The national average is $1.31 a square foot. That's the national average. And there have been reports of up to 35% homeowners insurance premium discounts. There's lower construction costs. There's many trade-offs: road width, number of fire hydrants required, more homes per development because they can put them in closer together, and there's a few other things that go on. So why? Well, basically, early in my career, back when I was up in the UP, I saw an 8-year-old boy cry in anguish as he told his dad, "It burns, it burns, it burns," and it still makes me shake to this day. And that was as we showed up and we were getting off the truck, and his dad was having a hard time pulling him out of the bedroom window. It's because his skin was sloughing off. And I'll spare you the details, okay? But I tell you what, I'll never forget little Jeffrey's voice. So right now, Hartland Township has a unique opportunity to start making a difference in new residential developments. It's time that Hartland Township gets involved in community risk reduction. It doesn't cost us any money. It's not going to take any additional resources. And if given the opportunity, it could actually save every homeowner in the township money on their insurance premiums through further ISO reduction classifications. People don't have an issue spending $3,500 on a granite countertop, and I've seen $4,000 lawn sprinkler systems installed to make sure that grass stays green in August. A $2,300 requirement on a 2,000 square foot home is not going to deter a buyer from purchasing a home, no matter what a developer or a home builder tells you. So my question is this to you. If this is something that intrigues you, and if this is something that you'd like to hear more about, you don't have to respond tonight. Think about it. But we have the first 3 developments in a long, long time that are coming into Hartland. And I'm not saying that every single new build in Hartland needs to do this, but we have a lot of planned developments coming in. So why not get on board now? And why not do our community a favor? And let's put the horse in front of the cart the way it should be. So it's up to you as a planning commission. If you'd like to hear more, see more, ask more questions, I can put a few things together for you. All you have to do is let me know, and I'd be more than happy to do so. I firmly believe in this. They save lives. They really do, and they reduce a lot of money. There are communities, Maryland, there's Prince George County out east. They've had them since 1990 or 1992. They saw a reduction in just 15 years of over $45 million in property savings alone, which results in the tax revenue for the area. So just let me know. Let me know if you guys would be interested. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
You bet. Thank you.
Dave, do you want us to just get back with you? And how do you want to do that?
I think that's right. I mean,
I don't know if it's, you just want
well, yeah, if this is
I don't want to get into a conversation, discussion, because we don't do that at all of the
We don't, and I don't want any, because Mike's right, we do have 3 residential developments that are in review right now at different stages of the review process. I don't want anyone to get the impression that, we snuck this in as a call to the public item, and so if this is going to be a more of a discussion, then I think it should be an agenda item at an upcoming meeting if that's what the Planning Commission desires. And if that's something that you want to get back to me in the next few days as we're developing our next Planning Commission agenda, and let me know whether that's a discussion we want to have. I would obviously need to check with Mike to make, check his availability, but that's how I'd like to handle it.
How about if we do that? Just send Dave an email if you're interested or not.
Oh, okay.
All right? Work? Okay.
Mike,
Thank you
you
very
can send a copy of that presentation to Dave so he can distribute it to us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for your
Okay.
time.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. Anyone else this evening call to the public? No? Okay. All right, we have no public hearing this evening, so let's move on to item 8A. This is our 2015 update to the comprehensive plan. Probably best thing to do at this point is turn it over to Dave.
Well, thank you. So the Planning Commission has been working on this process for some time now, going back to the official kickoff of this process in September of last year, but with a lot of discussion leading up to that official kickoff throughout 2014. And what this is an update to the township's comprehensive plan, and more specifically, replacing the existing future land use plan and the future land use map, which are very significant components of that overall township comprehensive plan. So the township's comprehensive plan was last adopted in 2004, but the future land use plan chapter and the future land use map, which, as I mentioned, are probably the most significant portions of any comprehensive plan, were last updated and adopted in 2011. A good planning practice is to take a good review of your township's comprehensive plan every 5 years, and that's what Hartland Township is doing. We last did this in 2010 and got it adopted in 2011, so fast forward to 2014, 2015, we're taking our 5-year look at this. The Planning Commission has spent the fall and the winter of 2014 and 2015 reviewing the language within the future land use plan and the future land use designations of the future land use map, a copy of which we have on display and a copy of which I'll put on the big screen here, and has recommended a number of revisions to the map and to the plan itself. Not a huge number of revisions, which makes sense given that we last went through this process 5 years ago, and so it makes sense that the vision of Hartland Township hasn't changed dramatically over those last 5 years. But what the Planning Commission, with the board's impetus, what the Planning Commission's role here is to ensure that the future land use map has been established to accommodate the type of residential development that Hartland Township's market demands right now. So the township, to determine what that demand is, we contracted with a professional housing consultant to develop a market study for Hartland Township. That market study confirmed that there is a strong demand for new housing in Hartland Township and that there is a strong demand for certain types of housing in Hartland Township. So having that analysis as its background, the Planning Commission took a look at the future land use map and said, is there developable land in the township that is designated to accommodate this type of housing that our market study says that we will need over the next 5 years or so. Going through many meetings and many conversations, the outcome is this updated map. And at the last Planning Commission meeting on April 16th, the Planning Commission held a public input session where we did have a good turnout of members of the public, most of whom received a letter in the mail from Hartland Township saying, we're going through this process, your property may be affected by this process, please come, please be heard, please let us know your thoughts on this, because we certainly don't want to make these kind of decisions in a vacuum. We did get some good input at that session, and I want to talk a little bit more about some of what we heard. But we're getting to the point where the Planning Commission is kind of wrapping up this draft update to the comprehensive plan and the comprehensive and the future land use map. And the next step would be for the Planning Commission to forward these updates to the Township Board, because only the Township Board can authorize the distribution of this proposed update to the comprehensive plan. So the state of Michigan has what's called the Planning Enabling Act that establishes the law for how a community like Hartland Township can go through this process. And there's certain steps that you have to make to ensure that a township, any municipality, is being clear and transparent with what they're doing. The next step would be for the Planning Commission, if they so choose this evening, to forward this draft to the Township Board so that the Township Board can authorize the distribution of the plan. What distribution means is that we send it out to every municipality that's adjacent to us. We send it to the county. We send it to the region. We send it to all the local utility companies. There's a long list of people who are to get a copy of this draft plan. Then they have 45 days to review it. Then the Planning Commission holds a public hearing, and then they make a formal recommendation of adoption to the Township Board. And then finally, the last step, and it'll probably be late summer when it happens, is for the Township Board to adopt this update to the comprehensive plan. So where we are at this evening is the Planning Commission has the opportunity to forward this to the Township Board, so the Township Board, at a meeting on May 19th, could authorize distribution of this plan. So this is kind of the Planning Commission's last chance for the moment to review all the work we've done over the last 8 months and determine whether this is the plan and the map that we want to forward to the Township Board. And I do want to have particular discussions about some of the things that we heard at the public input session 2 weeks ago on a couple particular pieces of property, just to ensure that that what the Planning Commission is proposing on those properties, given what we heard 2 weeks ago, is still how we want to move forward with the proposed map. Included in your packet is the map itself, the proposed language of the future land use plan, a most up-to-date copy of the timeline that we established, where we kind of showed at each meeting what we accomplished and what's still left to be accomplished. So after we have maybe one final discussion for the moment on this, then the Planning Commission, if they so choose, could forward this to the Township Board with a recommendation that the Board authorize the distribution of this proposed update to the comprehensive plan.
So do you want to, why don't you call those specific parcels that we had feedback on, and why don't we deal with those? There were only a couple of them individually.
There were. So let me make sure I'm zooming in on the right area with the right tool. Particularly, it was this property on the west side of Bullard Road, which, keep in mind, what you're looking at right now is the proposed future land use map, not the future land use map that was adopted in 2011. So on the map that was adopted in 2011, this property that I'm moving my cursor around on was designated as multiple family. The Planning Commission at one of the March meetings recommended that we reconsider this and redesignate this property from multifamily to office. The same recommendation was made for this, what I would call a flag lot right here, the two properties below it along 59, and this property directly to the east. The idea was that currently on the 2011 map, which I'll go zoom in on that, if we zoom in on that same area, we've got something of a mixture of proposed uses in through here. So as I mentioned, this property is shown as multifamily, these properties as office, the flag lot and those two properties, again, is multifamily, and this property is kind of on an island as low suburban density designation. The Planning Commission's intent was to try to consolidate this into one cohesive land use designation, that being an office designation, rather than kind of having this mixed bag along M59 at Bullard Road. But we also would not have invited the public to come to a public workshop if we didn't want to hear what they had to say. And what the property owners in this area asked was that the Planning Commission reconsider the proposed changes, particularly on this property and this property.
Well, I think the flag lot was the actual property owner that came.
It was, and if you recall, on this property, the property owner couldn't make it, but they sent us a letter, which we treat as if they were standing here. Sure. So, I would want to, before this gets forwarded to the Township Board, I would want to have one last discussion on that area, if for no other reason than we don't want to disregard the public input that we asked for and received 2 weeks ago.
So I've got a question then. The light blue that you're showing all around that is the park property.
Yes, and so that designation is public, quasi-public. Right. Keep in mind that this area is Heritage Park, so that's all the football, soccer, lacrosse fields. This area is was acquired by the Livingston Land Conservancy. Mm-hmm. They did a swap with the Bullard Lake Homeowners Association, or it was a donation to the Land Conservancy. So it is public, quasi-public. I just want to be clear that that's not part of the township park property. It's the Land Conservancy.
It's wooded and slopes down to the lake.
It is, and because it's been acquired by the Land Conservancy, the whole intent behind that organization is that it's preserved in its natural state forever and ever.
Right. And the other piece that's horizontally laid to the west,
this one
there, is all very low property.
That is true. The property owners, their house is there, and that's one of the things they pointed out in their letter is that it's a very lovely piece of property. I haven't been there myself, but
low. I mean, it's very low. It's close to the water table.
It is low, and therefore
developable.
Yep, and therefore has lots of critters and birds and all that. I don't want to sound like I'm making a joke of it. It's very, very nice things that we want to maintain here in Hartland. So that was part of their rationale for please don't redesignate our property to office because we would like it to remain in this beautiful, natural, low-lying state.
But I guess what I'm getting at is the chances of developing that into an office use are pretty low because the property is very low and it's really only situated for residents, I would guess.
It's probably a pretty good guess. You could probably make the same rationale that it's not likely to be developed as multifamily either, which is what its current designation is. I think part of the Planning Commission's rationale was these properties along M59, which, by the way, are adjacent to the township sewer service, there is a pretty good likelihood that these would be developed sometime in the foreseeable future as an office use. And part of the Planning Commission's rationale was, could it possibly be combined with this property to give them a little more area to develop some sort of a multi-tenant office use with exactly, their detention area in that low-lying area in the back.
I mean, the idea is just that. I mean, right now, without a piece like that, the property owner only has a certain amount of area to build and make it profitable. If they, for some reason, were able to purchase that, it gives them a much better footprint to work with.
Well, and it's and it's the future land use map, so it's not going to change unless the property owner wants to change it.
Exactly.
There's going to be a change of ownership, or that property owner is going to agree to change it.
And that's often the misunderstanding when in terms
not
of
the zoning map.
It's not a zoning map. It's a future designation, and at the end of the day, it probably doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of difference, really, if we change it now or at some future date. If that area is office and we got somebody's very interested in that spot, they're going to buy it anyway and seek a zoning change. And they would be most likely be able to get it because of the close proximity of the office designation nearby. So I could go either way with it. If it's going to make the owner happy, I keep it the way it is at this time and move on.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning the same way. I can go either way. I can see...
Well, she doesn't want to keep it.
No.
She wants you to change to it to yellow.
See, yeah.
She wants it. She wants the multifamily removed.
Yeah, I would support that because I agree with Joe. Somebody else who wants to develop some office property along 59 could use that for, like you say, retention, and that just increases the buffering area between there and the residences to the north. So, I mean, if it's multifamily, then right on top of each other, the chances of it being multifamily are pretty slim anyway. So, yeah, I don't have a problem with
Leaving it blue.
leaving it blue. Right.
Keith, do you want to?
No, I'm in favor of it, yeah. I think we have more control of that property, and some of that property is sensitive, especially with the conservatory there, and there is a lot of nature over there. Like, I think we have more control of that property making it commercial than multi-family. So,
Or office mean?
well, I'm sorry, office, not commercial, right?
Well, if you are interested in protecting it, I'll probably agree with Joe Kalani in that most likely it ends up not having a house and having a building on it because it will end up being more of the detention, natural buffer that you're stating.
Right.
So it may be misunderstood what we're trying to do with it. I think you're almost saving the property from development by doing this than you are making it or leaving it orange. And they're not going to be forced to move. Nothing changes for them. And they can sell it as a single-family home.
They can,
They can move next week or put it up for sale, and it still is what it is.
and that's been explained to them, and I think they understand that this doesn't make their property non-conforming. Nobody's going to come banging on their door, in a few weeks and tell them they have to get out because their property's been rezoned. And I think they understand that, and their letter still was before you 2 weeks ago. So.
Right. I would be in favor of leaving it blue.
I agree.
So, Mike?
Help me one more time. What was the current residence request? She didn't want it multiple
She
either.
wants a
CA.
Well, the equivalent of yellow.
The low suburban,
Carry the yellow down.
which you could say is what it is just north of there, so you're not necessarily designating it something that's inconsistent with anything that's not around it already. She agrees with the Planning Commission that multifamily is likely not the appropriate designation.
Correct, and I agree with that.
She would like it to, rather than go to office, go to the low suburban
Low suburban.
that's to the north and to the west.
And I think if you want to save the natural features, most likely you're going to be better off in blue.
Does that have access? No, it doesn't have access to the lake. No, that's just the portion of the park that goes or something. What's to the north there? Is that all? Oh, that's Conservancy. That's right.
Over here.
Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
Conservancy.
This is the dam, the Bullard Lake Dam. Right in through there. It's about right there. And that was the trade-off, is the Lake Association took this so they could control maintenance of the dam, and then everything else went to the Conservancy.
No, I agree. I think it could stay blue as proposed. I don't have a problem.
Okay. So I guess that one will stay blue.
Is this the part, Chair Fox, where you say go blue? Let me know when that part is.
I said...
I'll make sure, and then lean right into your or your microphone when you do it.
I wanted to make that very clear. It can stay blue.
Okay. And if we could have so if that's a consensus, then I would want to ask that we have a similar conversation on this property. Again, this is a property owner who asked that the Planning Commission reconsider. Keep in mind that that property owner owns this flag lot. A separate property owner that we didn't hear from owns these two lots. All three of them are currently designated as multiple family, and all three of them are proposed to be redesignated to office.
I like the idea that we've kind of kept that area as kind of moving that area in more of a direction of a kind of where you would put your office area.
Well, there's already more opportunity just to the east of that, in that special development area for multifamily anyway. And, you know, you're going to be scattering the multiple family around if you get too many spot zones of it. And I'm in favor of leaving it blue.
Well, and I'll just say, I still think if you have a big enough piece of the office future land use designation, you maybe create the opportunity for something of significance at some point in time. We don't have that anywhere in the township. Right. Our blue is a bunch of slivers along in 59, and this has some depth to it and size. If you ever wanted to attract anything of significance, you're going to need to have a piece of property that's big enough to do it. And we don't have it if we don't. And it's all in that area. It's all clustered together. It looks good together.
Yeah, I would agree. It looks good. It seems to fit.
Yes, personally, I don't have an issue with this one. Proposed as office. I'm hoping very much that the residents understand that this is a future vision. That property is currently zoned multiple, and if somebody wanted to come in and develop it tomorrow, they could. But as David indicated, this does not mean that the property is going to change zoning.
No, what is it zone?
Not currently.
What is his zone?
I want to clarify that. So the Gore property is currently CA. You're not wrong that the little these two properties that kind of surround it are currently zoned for office, and then for this is already developed as that's the Trillium office center there.
Yeah, again, it comes back to it has no impact on anything today. They can stay there, they can sell their property to a new family, and it remains single family.
Correct. So, again, I have no problem with that.
Anybody else? Sue?
No, I'm good with everything.
Keith, you're okay?
Fine.
Sure. Okay, so that one's going to remain blue.
And those were, whether it was folks who came to the public input session or folks that, sent in written correspondence, those were the two that we got. Some folks that asked you to at least take one last look at it. We can say that we've certainly done that. We've certainly had another good conversation on it. And what I think I'm hearing then is that this is the map that the Planning Commission wishes to forward to the Township Board.
I believe you're hearing that.
Yes. And if that's the case, and if the same can be said for the verbiage of the future land use plan, then we did provide some recommended motion language to that effect. And it's worth pointing out that Commissioner Grissom had one very minor, well, no, it's not minor because it's the spelling of her last name, which is never a minor thing. So,
Right.
So we do have that edit to make. And
I'll support that.
Thank you.
There is one edit on page 11 as well. Under the first bullet, nearly 88%, that should be drive alone.
yes, it should. Thank you.
But other than that, looks great.
Wow.
Other than Sue's thing.
Darn, I tried to catch him.
We still have to, yeah, that's worth repeating. This is, what you have the option of doing tonight is forwarding this to the Township Board so they can basically send it back down to you so that you can then distribute it, and when I say you, I mean the Planning Commission Secretary, can distribute it per the Planning Enabling Act, and so that we can get to a public hearing. So this isn't a final adoption or a recommendation thereof. It is sending this to the board so that because only the board can approve distribution of a master plan or an update to a master plan, per state law.
So Keith, you'll get to drive this around.
Yeah,
Yep.
sounds that way.
Door to door. We've got a unit.
No, we've got a horse. All right, David, you're looking for a motion then?
There's a motion. If the planning commission's desire is to forward this to the township board, it needs to be done as a formal motion, the language of which we have a recommended language for.
Well, I'm just a little confused because I'm not seeing the motion.
Yeah, it's in the memo.
Action.
It is in the memo?
8A memo, right at the recommended action. So I'll move to forward the draft update of the 2015 comprehensive plan to the Hartland Township Board, such that the board may have the option to approve distribution of the plan pursuant to the procedures of the Michigan Planning Enabling Act.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Kalani, second from Commissioner Voigt to forward the 2015 update to the board. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, item 9, call to the public. Anything? Okay, we'll move on to planner's report, item 10.
Some quick updates on some developments that you have either already seen or will be seeing very shortly. And you've heard me talk about them before. One is the Speedway, and the other is the proposed gas station with the Dunkin' Donuts Baskin-Robbins drive-through here at the corner of Clark and M59. The Speedway plans have been submitted. The Dunkin' Donuts plans, they tell us, are going to be in next week. In both cases, the properties are zoned general commercial, so therefore in both cases it would be a site plan with a special land use. With a special land use, there's a public hearing. So what we will be doing, we're already doing with Speedway, we will be doing with the Dunkin' Donuts, is reviewing the plans to ensure that they're ready for a public hearing. Doesn't do anyone any good to come to the Planning Commission for a public hearing on a plan that's not ready. So that's where those two projects stand. The proposed residential development behind Venture Church, the 64 single-family units, that concept plan went to the Township Board at their April 21st meeting. They heard a lot of the same positive comments from the board that they heard from this Planning Commission. That applicant is well aware that we want them to continue working with the other players on creating some internal connections of roads, water, sewer, and those conversations are ongoing. I was on the phone just today with a number of folks on that. So the next stage on that one would be a preliminary site plan. Preliminary site plan has been submitted for Chestnut Development. So this is the 25 detached condos on the south side of M59, just east of Clark Road. Because it's a preliminary plan for a planned development, there will be a public hearing on that one too. So if you're predicting that we're going to have a lot of public hearings in the near future, you'll be right. That's still going to be 25 detached condominium units with cul-de-sac, one way in, one way out onto M59. We're reviewing that plan as we speak. The Woods Edge project, so this is the 21-unit site condominium on Maxfield Road. The next step for them will be final site condominium. They tell us they're wrapping up their master deed right now, and they will be submitting on that in the near future. So sometime in that near future, Planning Commission will be seeing the final site condominium for that one, and then that'll go to the board for final site condominium approval, at which point that one will likely get going. We are asking public input and Planning Commission input and Township Board input on a survey of what are the types of restaurants, the types of stores, the types of services, the types of entertainment uses that we want to see in Hartland Township. We don't want the public to get the impression that we have the power to go out and get these types of uses if they say they want one, but we do feel that once we kind of have an idea of what our public and what our Planning Commission and Board are looking for, it could be a good resource for our commercial development community that we can say, here's what our public is looking for. Now you guys see if you can go out and get it. This was a strategic plan initiative by the Township Board. That survey is an online thing that just went live today. I will provide all of you the link, but we do ask that both the Planning Commission and the Board participate in that survey, and we're going to ask the public and the staff of the Township to do the same. There should be some gifts in front of you. It's a coffee mug and some stationery with the Hartland Communities Friendly by Nature logo. And I stress the word Hartland Community. So this is not the township's new logo. This is a branding initiative of a partnership between the township, the schools, the Chamber of Commerce, the library, all our community organizations, our athletic organizations, so on and so on, to create a brand for the Hartland community, not unlike the Pure Michigan campaign. You know, you still have the seal of the state of Michigan for government purposes, and we still have the seal of Hartland Township, but this is a branding initiative for the Heartland community, which is obviously much bigger than Township Hall. So, if nothing else, you get a coffee mug out of that. And I did... You didn't already get yours? I thought the board already got theirs. All right. I'll find you one. I assume that's why you didn't get one, because I thought the board already got theirs.
No, there may be other reasons.
He's not friendly by nature, number one.
And the last thing is, I meant to bring those up the last meeting. I did bring it up by email. So we do have new hard copies of our most up-to-date zoning ordinance. I think Commissioner Voigt already came in and picked up his. I've got at least 3 of them sitting here. If anyone wants a hard copy, they're yours to take. Otherwise, it is available on our websites if you wanted to download it, or we could burn it to a CD if you want to do it that way and save some paper. Just let me know what your preference is.
Electronic for me.
Okay. And my very last thing is, I am actively working on looking for, I've sent you some emails about laptops versus tablets versus nothing. I've got everybody's opinion, and now we're doing some shopping. I think where we're going to go is the 2-in-1 tablet, where it can be a tablet, but you can also plug it into a keyboard, and then it's as good as a laptop. Like this one? Like that one. So now it's a matter of finding ones for the right price that do what we need them to do, and so I get to do some shopping on that. That is everything I wanted to bring up as part of my planner's report.
All right, thank you. Next up, item 11, committee reports, comments. Anybody? Anything? Motion to adjourn, please. Support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, and good night.